pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is approve the financial report.
So moved.
Second? Jim? Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Deason to approve the financial report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the July 11th, 22 meeting minutes.
Wow. So moved.
Now, there is a correction in the second paragraph. It's Colleen O'Connor.net. So it's an approval with changes. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Deason to approve the July 11th town board meeting minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the special town board meeting minutes of July 26th. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Panic to approve the special Stafford Town Board meeting minutes of July 26th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay. One abstention. One abstention. Approval of the fire department report.
We're going to cover it before you want to motion.
No, I'll leave the, your Stafford Fire Department answered 19 calls for service in the month of July, including these calls were a structure fire, commercial vehicle fire, and multiple motor vehicle collisions. We have completed vehicle extraction, search and rescue training, as well as multiple quality improvements and critiques. This is a common practice for us weekly, where we discuss our calls from the previous week and acknowledge our strengths and places we could improve for future incidents. Matt Hendershot, Fire Chief, Stafford Fire Department.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Panic to approve the fire department report. Second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Deason. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Approval of the CEO report. Any questions?
Could I take a look at those? Okay. Can I just take a quick look? Just a quick look.
Motion to approve. Councilman Deason, second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Panic. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Sandy, you're on.
Pardon?
You're on.
So I came here to just give a little synopsis of what's been happening in the last few weeks and some positions that I'm going to take. My name is Sandra Swanson and I live with my husband have lived with my husband for the last 20 years on Farnham Road. Before that I lived in Bedford, Massachusetts, but I was raised on the Batavia Stafford Town Line Road. Can everybody hear me? I have a Bachelor of Science degree, a Master's of Education, and a Master's of Psychology. I taught school in Massachusetts and I was a Middlesex County Extension home economist. I have been most interested in renewable energy systems, which have presented themselves in our town, including the science and economics of wind and solar. I chaired the solar committee commissioned by the town board, which researched the many components that have been presented in a two-part, 4-paper reams, books, which was given to the town on August of 2018. The study included a committee roster with about 8 people. Some of them are in the room this evening. 48 meeting dates. We met 48 times. A mission statement, the scope of our study, the recommendations. I believe that some of you have in your hand the findings. The precautionary principle when going into something like this. A signature page with the signatures of all the people that were on the committee, and the acknowledgement of 21 speakers on the subject of solar energy. For me, research is fun, even if it's hard to organize. And if you look at Ron Panic, he knows that I had, at the time, organized the 2 books. At the time, the solar company was Cypress Creek Renewable, and they were knocking down our door. Out of this work came the text of the solar law, written by the town board, and a specific person on the town board did a lot of that work. New York State didn't want towns to prohibit solar. Possibly some of the residents and even officials in this town did not want to prohibit solar in Stafford either. Possibly all of you know very little about what is being done at this time behind the scenes with another company called VW Solar. The company is based, in Canada, and it is a conglomerate. It is wrong. Oh, two. That's right. The company is based in Canada. It is a subsidiary of a group called VW Group, which is a Chinese backed conglomerate. But we have a solar law prohibiting solar, you say. The study laid out the efficacy of solar in Stafford. It made recommendations to preclude solar in our town. It covered reasons stated in the comprehensive plan of health, safety, welfare to all of and for all of the Stafford citizens. It was backed up by science and economics. It covered 14 findings, which predicated its recommendation, and I've handed out as many copies as I could of the findings. So I would ask you to read those later. Update to July and August 2020. It was suggested to review by the town board the 2-part study in a 2-week period, and we did have of the first meeting for which we covered Book 1. As a part of the meeting, I explained the difference between opinion and the scientific method of research. Therein, I covered the topic, how do we know what we know about science and economics? The topic was covered because a town board member told me during this time that the study, the solar study, was my opinion, and the opinion was number 2, and New York's, and when I asked, well, who was number 1, he said to me, New York State. So I got the feeling that some of the people that were involved in this are very in favor of solar in our town. Many things have happened since the Part 1 study review. A town board member asked me to assist in the seeker regarding an application of 2 solar farms in our industrial zone near the college. And that I have help from, and that I would have help from an engineer from Clark Patterson, an engineering consult firm often employed by the town of Stafford. Now if I can get to the 3rd page. I called Clark Patterson and told them that I needed to help, and they told me they couldn't help until I sent them the solar package. I didn't know what the solar package was. I obtained, though, the solar package from the town hall, and going through its contents, I found emails which I organized in a chronological order. After reading the correspondence, it became very clear to me that work had already commenced to undermine the solar law. I believe the committee and myself have completed our assignment, and therefore I refer all further debate, work, public notification, and responsibility in this matter to the town board of Stafford. This is happening. I have great sorrow for the health, safety, and welfare of our beautiful town. We've been sold out to China. Thank you.
Any comments about Sandy's report? When you say we have been sold out to China, I'm sure you're including more than just the people sitting at this table.
Yes, I am, actually. We have sold out to China. Is that a better way of saying it?
Well, when you say
When you bring it closer, you sold out. You've changed the law,
Where did
so
we
you
choose
can
the
pat
law?
other people on the back. And you did this behind closed doors and on your own, so you sold out. And I guess I sold out all the way to China, right?
Well, the
Yes.
company is from China.
Okay, I don't recall any new submission of
You
a
don't
solar law.
recall? Yeah, I'm sure you don't. You've got a little memory.
I don't recall this
It was-
closed
Yeah,
door
please.
session either.
You know,
It was passed
a
in
variance, a
2019.
zoning variance is one thing. Changing the law is something else. The law was in place that was gonna do this town some good, and you changed it.
Well, I'm not sure.
You dumbed it down.
Not necessarily.
The law is
You
exactly,
did.
the
You're
law
one. There's
is,
the other guy, right there.
please tell us the date and provide us a copy
Yeah.
of the new solar law.
I don't believe that a new solar law has been put forth. Is that right?
May something. Wasn't it May 31st or something?
What I know is that there are people in this room that are working very hard to get solar, not only in the industrial room sector of the town, which is over by the college, but also near Fargo Road and Sweetland Road, where I've just been told in the last 2 or 3 days that people have signed. You may not know that.
I don't know that.
We have no vehicle to know that.
Vehicle?
Well,
It's not reported to us. If somebody signs a contract, it's not reported to the town board.
So that's untrue? Is that untrue?
we don't know.
There's no truth to
We
it?
don't know.
We have no idea.
We don't know.
They don't share that with us.
That's the first time we've heard it.
So does the town board have the final say in yes or no as to whether a solar farm goes in or not?
Ultimately, it'll end up with us, yes.
So you have the final say, and you don't stand up to the law as it is written? Or will you make modifications?
No, we have no need to. The law is good as it stands. And we have no need to change it, we haven't changed it.
It can be overruled in court. And at least 3 times in town meetings, BW Solar has said they are going to litigate the property protection part of the law.
So are you gonna stand up against that, or are you gonna just cave to them?
We have to evaluate with our attorneys where
So we are getting sold out to China.
Not so.
Have we
You're
retained
not gonna
the,
stand up because you're afraid of getting sued, because this guy's bigger than we are. Why are we here if we have no voice?
We do have a voice, you're speaking now.
And I've spent years,
And it's
the
also-
town board is speaking for the residents of Stafford against this solar.
And it's also a balancing act between paying for litigation and the
So money
likelihood
talks?
of it being successful.
So money talks.
You said that you had vetted this law with others, and that you took the base of the law from others.
Yes,
So then, where do you feel like we're gonna lose here? If you vetted the law with other areas, we should be in fine standing to go and fight something like this.
We didn't say we were gonna lose.
we vetted it with, and then I'm just saying this to be cautionary. Now, I wrote it, so would I love for it to stand exactly the way it is? Yes, I like my work. But we also have to look out for our citizens. We vetted it with the town board. We went through line by line. Do we all agree on every line? Not categories, every line. We vetted it with our attorney. Our attorney, the one big suggestion was that we, rather than having individual preclusions on what some of the risks are, that we leave that to the seeker process, which is a failure mode analysis, so that as technology and laws change, our law would still be good and we wouldn't be stuck with a obsolete law because something has changed. You do a seeker fresh each time. That's why I asked Sandy to have the study committee involved in the seeker. Then it was reviewed by the planning board. And the planning board had 42 recommendations, of which we accepted 35. In no way, shape, or form is this a preclusion. That law is not a preclusion on solar being developed in Stafford. What it does is put like things together. Other towns have looked at it. Could I?
Example of 2 things together.
Other towns have looked at solar and said that agriculture and solar farms are compatible. They're like uses. When we looked at it, and other towns have followed it. Yeah, again, look at the laws in towns bordering us. Agriculture and solar are considered compatible.
So we can eat off the solar panels or what?
We decided to go with industrial. One of the reasons why we did is because our comprehensive plan says that we have to protect productive farmland. Once farmland has been zoned industrial, you've already said those are small pieces of the town that can be developed for industrial purposes. You have the quarry over here, and then you have an industrial park over by the college. Now at the time, because the state was pushing having industries work with the college and they would pour money into it, the expectation is probably light industrial research-based type companies might move in there. Never panned out, but the zoning remains the same.
So is agricultural going to get rezoned to industrial so that these solar panels can go in?
They can apply.
How does that protect our farmland?
You have
Because
more.
once those
You
solar
have-
panels get back on there, you're not going to eat off those, you're not going to grow crops off there.
That would mean we would have to approve a change from agriculture to industrial.
And
Has it been approved?
No.
No,
So Sandy, where is that other location that you're referring to that wants to build another little, is that zoned
It's
industrial?
over by Fargo Road.
No, it is not.
How do you know? You don't know anything about it. You just heard about it.
Fargo Road's not.
just by the
industrial.
location.
Yeah.
Well, I heard the names. I mean, I don't think I should be saying the names, but it's a neighbor of mine who lives on Fargo Road. I also heard that people who live on the corner of Fargo and Sweetland have put under contract 61 acres. Those people do not live, but use their house that they inherited from their parents as a vacation home.
We're starting to get into general items, and there was a specific question asked. How was this vetted? How was the law vetted? Now it's partway through that, and I would like to finish.
Please go ahead.
But again, the way the town would know if someone wants to develop solar is they would have to apply for a zoning change.
I believe, just to interrupt you for a minute, that a company has approached them, and just because you don't know doesn't mean that the company hasn't lined up another sector in our town that actually is right near Fargo Road and Sweetland Road. And they're going to come across and they're going to use certain transit lines that go right through my farm. And I don't really know anything more about that, but as I read I didn't just read the solar application. There were also many, probably 15 interactions with townspeople, town board members and employees of the town. And I arranged them in this chronological order to see who was talking to who. And it became evident that several people on the town board, 2 or 3 people on the town board, were involved in working with solar and working for BW, working with BW. I don't mean for it at all, but with them. So are you saying that you haven't been working with BW?
Yeah.
Have we talked to anybody?
Speaking for myself,
Can I say something?
Could I finish?
Oh, sorry.
What I had started? All right, so 42 recommendations, of which we accepted 35 of them because they were improvements. All right, so then we sent it on to the county. The county looked it over, sent it back to us, and basically said, this is kind of out of our scope, so you can move forward. We're not going to disapprove. I've got that correct, don't I? Because it wasn't this bold, flat endorsement. It was, we're in new territory, it looks okay, but we're not sure. I'm asking you if my memory is correct. So you got to go through the county. We got through the county. We passed it 5-0 on, wasn't it June 19th of 2019? All right.
Could be.
So now it's out there. Right after we passed it, I got a note from one of the building inspectors in Leroy, and they said, well, by the way, we're working on a solar law also. Could you send me a copy of your past law? So I sent them a copy of their past law. Lo and behold, when they passed the law, they did do our industrial zoning, but they did not do our property protection plan. Alexander, I noticed they passed our law so direct that even the spaces that must have been in copy and paste, because even spaces, you know how you should just go one space and then a period. Now you've got a bad habit of doing 2 spaces after a period. It's in their law. So now we have a law in 219 and nobody is tested. Nobody has applied. Then we get contact from BW and we get contact from, who was the one that was asking questions about our law? The solar company that is interested in the land behind the
Sunny East, ain't it?
it could be. All right.
Sunny, yeah.
So they asked a bunch of questions and then it went quiet.
Is that the one Buckley Road and the, behind the
Yeah.
golf course?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
That's supposed to be a big one, right?
It's supposed to be bigger, but could I address that question when I get done
Absolutely.
of how is this reviewed? So that's the review point that we've gotten to. Oh, and we sent it to the state, but I'm not really confident the state does a deep review of our law. As long as it's not extreme, they let it go through. So our law is there waiting for somebody to test. And our law says that you have to apply in an industrial zone. You have to apply complying to certain setbacks. You have to apply being subject to the seeker. And you have to comply with our protection plan. Protection plan was to prevent what you see going on in towns that are getting massive solar development. I always quote, there's a property in Byron, his small farm will be boxed on all 4 sides. If he looks out his front door, back door, side door, other side door, that's all he's going to see is solar panels. That is what we wanted to prevent, is somebody whose property is being absolutely, I don't want to say destroyed, but the value significantly lessened by someone else's solar development. Now, out of all the things I listed as a review, the only one I haven't listed is litigation. And that's what's in front of us.
Like I said at the last meeting, maybe the town's gonna have to decide whether or not they wanna litigate.
Yeah.
And how much money they wanna put into it.
Well,
But
we
I
have,
think
we have to change the zoning in this property. The way the law reads now, the only place where you can have a solar array is in an industrial zone. We have 2 industrial zones, as we've spoken of.
I'm aware of the 2 zones. What I'm saying is that if VW Solar moves forward and we say we don't want it, obviously we're going to end up in court because of this one clause on the property thing, or, I mean, we've already given the variances on the setbacks, so the only thing left is for the town board to vote on whether or not they want it. And you built the law, you're very proud of it, so I'm assuming you're not going to vote for VW Solar. I'm not asking for your commitment to that, but
What? We have, oh, okay, go ahead.
But at some point, when all this gets passed, we're gonna have to go to court because they put a ton of time into this. They're not gonna walk away from this project. And so how does the town people, how do we determine whether or not we're gonna go to court? Because you are proud of your solar law. So I feel confident that you put enough time. You've got Sandy's time and involvement. We've had countless meetings here. And I feel like there's a little bit of waffling going on as far as what direction the town wants to go in. At what point do we make a decision on this?
All right.
You're gonna have to have, before we change the zoning on this one particular piece, we're gonna have to have a public hearing.
Zoning on what piece?
Can I just interject real quick, because there's some confusion happening with 2 different projects?
Yes.
My name is Dan Huntington. I represent BW Solar. I've worked on this project for about 1.5 years now. And just to clarify a few things, we researched the law and we look at towns' comprehensive plans. And I studied it very thoroughly. I've been working in New York for many years. I'm actually the senior project manager for New York. And I looked at the town's law, the town's comprehensive plan, and tried to find ways to make sure that it fit within what the town had already set forth as what they wanted in town. We had 2 other parcels of land that were by the rock quarry, under contract to lease, and looking at the comprehensive plan, we said they didn't zone this for solar, so we shouldn't move forward with it. One of the hardest things to do in New York is to get a zoning change. The town has all the discretion on a zoning change. And the number one thing in any town that I go to, and I've developed 4 other projects in Genesee County, is making sure you fit within what the town has already decided is where they want these projects and what is allowed in those zones. So we got rid of those 2 other parcels of land because we said it doesn't fit within their comprehensive plan.
Could you say what those other parcels that you're speaking of, are you still in Stafford when you're saying that?
No, we got rid of those because it doesn't fit within their comprehensive plan.
Stafford?
If I could just go ahead and finish, I can answer some questions towards the end. So we followed the comprehensive plan, we looked at the law, and to give you a little back history, we're actually the 3rd or 4th company to potentially try to build on this specific parcel of land that is zoned properly for solar. The 3 others before us saw the town law, and the reason they didn't get approached is because they saw there were so many, such a high bar to meet in the law. And so we put together our application. We knew we had to go to the zoning board for some variances first. We presented our packet to the zoning board. And since November 1st, I've been at every single zoning board meeting. I've been giving presentations. I've offered to do special seminars to talk about how we got where we are. Because we don't just willy-nilly go around and pick parcels of land and say, hey, that's a good farm, let's take it. We have to find specific power lines, and we can only build smaller generation facilities on those power lines because it's too cost prohibitive to build our own power lines for smaller projects. Some of the larger projects that have been mentioned here go through the state. They are larger projects, much larger than ours. They don't have to follow those zoning laws. So if we start talking about larger projects, that's a totally different style of solar development, has totally different rules, goes through New York State. We are doing everything through the town, and we are trying to follow the town's law to the letter. There is only one piece of the entire law that we can't abide by, and that is the 2,500-foot real property protection plan, which requires us to negotiate a contract with everyone, every homeowner, and it's roughly about 120 homeowners. It crosses into Batavia, it crosses the highway, and it's about a half a mile from the border of every property.
And if you
And
did not get that.
If I could just finish, I would be happy to answer your questions at the end.
It is my question of if.
Ma'am, I let you speak. If you could give me the same opportunity, I will happily answer every question you have. So-
After you speak.
So,
Change the law.
that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to follow 95% of your law,
And
and
the
what we're
2,500 foot stand.
So what we're trying to do is find alternatives to that, because in New York State, that is a piece of the law that is unprecedented. I've shared that with the town board members, the zoning board members, that there is no record that we can find where a 2,500-foot real property protection plan of this nature has ever been successfully used.
Have you ever been to Stafford before? It's here in Stafford.
Yeah, I've been coming for over a year now.
Okay.
So that is the only piece of the law that we were referencing. When I mentioned litigation, the only portion of the law which we would challenge its constitutionality is that one piece. Everything else, we can follow that law. We can follow the work you did. We can report birds. We can, put all the provisions that you have into that law in effect. It is just that one piece. That's the only one that in New York State is very difficult to even get a contract or negotiations with that many people individually for a small project. And that is the only piece of the law that we ever said we would have to challenge if we couldn't find an alternative to it. And we are more than willing to talk through options, double up the screening, add additional provisions where if we don't meet our obligations, the town has the legal right to tell us, rip it out and get it out of here. And really put some teeth into our operation and maintenance plan, which normally aren't there, but to prevent, the screening and the trees from dying, so that we have to be accountable for what we build. I've said it before in public hearings, I agree that the 5 Points project has a lot of issues. It's very close to the road. It's very close to houses. It doesn't have very good screening. And I'll admit, there are a lot of projects that have been built in New York that didn't really follow good practices in terms of being a good neighbor. When we applied for our variances, I was very clear that the variances we're asking for were to get it to the center of the field and away from the roads and away from the houses.
Excuse me, Dan, not for nothing, but you asked the variances so that your project would be profitable. It's not about getting them away from the houses. You need a specific amount of space to make your project profitable.
Sure. And
Let's not sugarcoat that part. Everyone's here because we don't want solar. What you're talking about is the fact that you want to get as close to the law as possible. That's great. But these people don't want solar. Does that bother you at all? No.
And I'm hearing it, but I understand that Stafford is a town of 1,400 to 1,600 people. The amount of land you guys have is 30,000 acres, and we're talking about 0.3%.
Doesn't matter.
I understand that certain folks do not like solar. I get it. People are in favor of solar, just not in their backyard. I understand that. They want it in a place where it's convenient for everyone.
Does that bother you?
And I get that. But I don't have the luxury of creating perfect spaces where solar can be built. I'm stuck by following the infrastructure that we have. And my hands are tied in that regard. If I could place it in a different place, the problem with that is capacity. So there are other projects, and I can tell you with relative certainty that if this project is built, there is no other property in the town of Stafford that is zoned properly. So most likely, I can say with relative confidence, not 100%, most likely you're not going to see another small generation facility because the town would have to change the zoning to allow it. The only thing that could come is a larger facility that the state has control of, not the town. So the only place solar can be developed is the spots that we have. We are trying our very best to follow every element of the law. I understand we're not perfect. And I understand there's folks with opposition. It happens in every town. And we try to meet them as close to a compromise as possible. So by no means is anyone trying to steamroll anyone. And, you know, I personally feel it's a little bit of a bridge too far to say that BW is China and that the town is selling out to China. You're welcome to your opinion, but this is a public area,
I have researched it, yes.
and it's a little uncomfortable to have that position being made.
Uncomfortable
So-
and truthful.
You are welcome to your opinion. for
So you're
sure.
saying you're not, so you're saying you're not part of China?
So in the process of all of this, we have tried to follow every single law. A lot of meetings have been like this. I think there's a few folks in the room who know that I have tried to answer every single question
Okay,
as openly and honestly as possible.
It's someone else's turn to speak now. The one reason that we are, the group that studied this is so very concerned about solar is economics and science. Under economics, that means that what you're trying to do to get rid of the last contingency that will allow you to come in has to do with how much is my home valued now that I have, and you want the 2,500 cut back to something. How much property value do I lose? And why should I lose this? And then secondarily, the next thing that you are obviously not even taking into consideration is the electromagnetic energy that goes along the path of least resistance, and you must know all about that. And it seems to me you're not speaking about it. You know about it. You know what it can do to animals, to humans, and to plant life. It actually kills it off or begins to kill it. It ruins the immune system of the people, the animals, and the crops that are produced. They're not as vibrant. This is a very, very serious thing. I think you need to take into consideration that, but I think that you will not do that because you must disregard that part because it's really the key to why you should not come here. Maybe way out in the west where they have huge land pieces, but we have small lots here. We have houses close together. The path of least resistance is usually around rock, water, and homes that have pipes, bathrooms, and kitchens. The evidence shows, which has shown from 1963 at the naval report, the medical naval report about electricity, that it lowers the immune system of all living things. I can see why you do not want to discuss that. I can see why you want to say, oh, that's really not important. But it's important to me because these are my neighbors.
Yeah, we
And I
follow.
also-
Oops,
I
sorry,
beg
go
your
ahead.
pardon?
Go ahead.
So I would like you to take that into consideration. I understand that you can't possibly do that and still be a salesman of your product.
So we address every concern. We go through all the environmental regulations that New York State has put forth, and that is through the seeker process. The town has hired a third-party engineering firm which will review all of our documents in accordance with all the laws that are here today. We
And you
follow
said-
every law that is in front of us. We have to answer to the Army Corps of Engineers, the DEC, Ags and Markets, which oversees farmlands, and we have to submit all those reports to those agencies. We have to get certain permits in order to move through construction phase. So we actively follow every law that is in place, and if a law is changed, our engineering firm that we work with makes us notified of it, and we increase our standards or our work to match that law. So we are not avoiding any conversation. We actively, in some counties, actually co-locate certain industries. In Montgomery County, I have a project where the town is requiring that we use sheep instead of lawn mowing. And we've incorporated a shepherd who works with the majority of the solar projects in that county to move her sheep from location to location so that it can be co-located and still maintain an agricultural feel and look. So we actively try to incorporate any of those stipulations wherever we can. If it makes us a good neighbor and we're accountable to the town for our operation and maintenance plan, we do whatever we can to do that.
I am speaking of personal and animal and human health that will be absolutely affected by electromagnetic stray voltage, which goes until it ends or is absorbed by the path of least resistance. And where it goes is to water, metal, and certain types of rock. And I haven't heard you say a thing about that, and you keep going back to New York State law and whatever law. Laws are not necessarily up with what is the science.
That's
And I'm very
or with what's legally applicable, and that's part of the conversation right now, is
It
there
really
is a law in
is.
town that frankly does not meet the standard for any other industry in town and is excessively overreaching in its request. And so I hear what you're saying with the electrical part, and we will have engineers here who have engineering degrees where they have to stamp their site designs, and if they are wrong, they lose their livelihood. I am more than happy to bring all the engineers that worked on this project on the electrical side.
To bring an electrical engineer
We will.
who studies
Electrical,
human
civil,
and
environmental.
animal and physical health of the land.
We will bring all the engineers that are required for a solar project. They will be up here
Is that
for
a
panels.
promise?
But who do they work for?
So we get this question all the time. You pay them, they're gonna say what you want.
No.
That is not how it works in New York State. They have a stamp, an electrical engineering stamp and degree. Your husband was an engineer. If he reports things falsely, he could lose his engineering stamp and his license.
But so what?
So they
It's
have to
already here.
report things
It's
to,
already here. You see what I'm saying?
It's not.
They're already on the ground.
no, they're not. Nothing's been built.
Well, no. By the time that he's wrong, the solar panels are already there. Right? That's how you prove, well, you say if he's wrong.
Well, is the gentleman from the other engineering firm here? He would be the person to talk to.
But you
Third
see
party,
what I-
yeah, but the third party
One
engineering
of the
firm.
very easiest things we can do is, there's a thing called a Stetzler meter. Are
Yeah,
you
and it reads
familiar with
straight voltage.
Right.
Exactly.
I know
So
exactly
we
what
can-
everyone's
We
referencing.
can go and get a background reading and record it,
Sure.
and then when you come in and put your things in there, if that changes, I would assume it'd be you. So we could do that.
Yeah,
So that's-
if
We can do
there's
that with
straight
your
voltage
engineer.
there,
It costs $400, I already know what it is.
and I would tell you right now, if we have straight voltage that's not going onto the grid, our system is not operating properly.
Good,
And so that can be included in the operation and maintenance plan. If there's reports of straight voltage on a quarterly, monthly basis, something to that effect in the first 3 years of the
What about the
project,
converter?
we could report back. I'm open to ideas
But
for
the
how
solar
we,
what about the converter, going from one to the other? There's no noise out of that?
it's a small humming, it's right by the,
Coming.
I mean, there's a 200-foot or 500-foot buffer from the road. If anyone is standing close enough to see it,
200 foot from the
you're
road.
trespassing on someone's property. So the setbacks of this are actually greater than just about any other industry you have zoned for this town.
But
The
this is
requirements
different.
for this with decommissioning, and if we don't follow it, we could be legally required to rip it down.
This
There are
is
no
different
other
than
industries
other
in town
industries.
What would the
that could rip
setback-
down their building
What
if they
would
didn't
the
operate properly.
setback be for a power generating plant, the grid? What's the grid got for a setback?
It's different in every town. New York State is home rule.
Okay.
And if you're talking about utility infrastructure, I have no say in that. We
It's-
follow
it's-
their
it's-
rules.
Well, you're creating electricity, it's a factory.
In terms of the connection to the utilities, we follow their rules. They tell us
We're
what we
getting
have to
quite
do.
in depth.
No, when
there's
it
still
comes
two,
down
there's,
to, didn't you write the law in advance of these solars coming in to protect the town?
Right.
Wasn't that the
Yeah.
purpose of writing that in the beginning?
Yes.
So why aren't we standing up to that now,
Why
that we're
don't you,
getting tested and say,
why don't you let me
Goodbye.
finish that question that I still keep getting interrupted by everybody?
we'll get to the answer
All right.
quick?
So now, has not been tested by court. So now, most everybody in this room says, why don't you just ban it? Why don't you have a nice 3-sentence law that says you cannot build solar panels in Stafford, we don't want them? Is that what everybody likes?
No.
That's not what anybody's saying, Ron.
No,
That's not what
because
anybody's
if
saying.
you-
So let's not boil it down.
if you get surrounded
That's right.
by other towns that have all kinds of solar panels, that's common use. A judge will turn that down immediately. So now the next step is, do you zone it into light categories? I think it's called Cincinnati zoning, where you put industry together, you put agriculture together, you put hamlets together, and that's how you zone. And that's how we zone, where we put like things together. The town board made the decision that industrial property is the like thing to solar panels. Because banning them,
Right, but
and the worst thing is, when you get a law overturned, sure, there's a severability clause in this law, so only certain sections can be overturned. But once it's overturned, you got nothing. That whole section disappears. That's the risk. And all I'm saying is that I like the law, I like how it is, but I also don't want to risk the residents of Stafford of having nothing.
you lose the whole law over one clause?
No, I said there's a severability clause. But you lose that whole section.
Yeah, but you don't lose it if you go to court anyway, if it doesn't stand up. I'm assuming you did some due diligence when you put it in there, so.
I
there's
just
gotta be references, right?
listed all of our
Right.
diligence.
You've got referenceable other states, counties, areas that have put that same law, put that same clause in there.
Actually, hasn't been tested yet. That particular section has not been tested.
I didn't know that.
Called John Draws, who was the guy, the head of an environmental group that pulled together this model law, and he was not aware of any test for it. Now, I did ask him as a follow-up, all right, what places have passed it so I can follow up with them? And he said he didn't have that information. But he said, I was the first one to call him to say that somebody wants to test this in court. Just, if you want, just Google John Droz, D-R-O-Z. His website will come up.
And I could just say something about John Draws. John Draws turned me on to a couple of people who lived in a we don't have any new housing developments, but this was a brand new housing development. And then they, within a year, they came in with a solar field, and many of the people are ill in that
And the other thing I was going to get to was, if you recall quite some time ago, I asked the Solar Committee to participate in the family ordinances, our secret.
Yes.
So, and not only do they have to comply to the laws, not only do they have to comply to the electrical codes, we have one more swing at the bat with the seeker to to raise the issue and raise any new information that may have occurred since the electrical code was put together. That's why Mark said, go with the seeker, not the specifics.
Okay, so
Now-
there are two electrical codes. One is the national electrical code, and then there's one being used in Stafford that isn't, it's used only in a few countries, very small countries around the Caribbean, and they're trying to get it adopted in the United States. But the national electric code is the one that we should be going by. It's very thorough. And do you remember Dave Stetzer?
Yes.
So Dave Stetzer, we could bring him back and talk to him about that, and he would be willing to come. He came to my farm, and he came to several farms in a 2-day period, and when we always walked, even though we have transit poles, very large transit poles on our property that go right down through across to the city. He said, Sandy and John, you must not walk your farm any longer. It's too dangerous. And he brought meters, and he showed us that the meters go just like that.
And that should be covered during the seeker process, and especially covered with our town engineering firm that we have hired just for that purpose, to go through the engineering data.
Now that is totally completed. All of his PowerPoints and all of his recommendations are included in the study. So I don't understand thinking that you can go ahead and do it and then see if it works. Because electricity is electricity, it's always been electricity, and it's always harmed farmers with cows. Any cow that has a drinking, what is a drinking cup, right?
Yeah.
A drinking cup, and she has a metal stanchion. She often dances because she's so uncomfortable because she wants water, and the water it's the passive least resistance. So her milk production goes down tremendously. And when they shut it off, they can see a total difference, and the cow calms down. It's the same with us. We have seen over and over with, especially in farm areas, rural areas, where the passive least resistance is up the pipes of the kitchen and the bathrooms in these areas. And they cause tremendous sickness. They cause cancer. They cause many different debilities depending upon a person's immune system. I'm not sure we have thoroughly understood that for the seeker, and I'm not sure the seeker covers anything like that.
The seeker has such general question that any of those issues can be included in the seeker. That's why we went with it. We wanted to be adaptable. We didn't want our law, all of a sudden, somebody applies, they got their application in, well, unfortunately, technology's changed and your law is wrong. No, we wanted it to address it. That was a significant improvement to it.
Ron, one of the things is, look at the giant in the room. The town really does not want to spend any kind of money on a lawsuit, but that's what we are being threatened with. Why? Because they're not getting their own way.
Actually, because the portion of the law that we can't meet the burden of is so difficult to achieve that it's never actually been used to our record in any county, town in New York, and it was actually taken from a South Carolina law. And that's the only piece of the law, and I'm happy to bend over backwards and do any accommodation we can find to make sure that the residents in that area are protected. But as you can imagine, folks that are half a mile away and over the highway are not going to have any visual impact. I understand the visual impact to the residents nearby, and I definitely am sympathetic to it. I've already reached out to several of them, and I provided the site designs to them very early on to show them what we were talking about. I've engaged with them several times. Those folks specifically, I want to make sure we do something to accommodate their views. Obviously, they're living in Stafford for a specific reason. We don't want to change that so overwhelmingly that they feel they have to move. That would be unfair. So we are very sensitive to the folks who are adjoining property owners. We've identified them. There are only 4 that are directly across the road that would have a view of the project, and we are actively working with them. Our only concern is that this provision in the law encompasses people a half a mile away. It encompasses so many different properties that almost 99% of them don't even have a line of sight to the property. They can't even see it. So it just feels as though it is an overreach in terms of who we need to coordinate with. And that is why I brought up as he mentioned, we have been working on this for a long time. We are trying our best to put a good project forward. And at the end of the day, if that one piece of the law is something that we can't somehow find an accommodation for, or ask us to do a whole list of things, and we'll see how many of them we can actually get if that portion of the law is changed. We'll still follow everything else in the law.
I think you're missing the point,
Except
though.
for one.
Except for the most
And
important.
that's why it's
right?
there, isn't it?
Right.
Right. I think, Dan, I mean, understandably, you're trying to, ease the pain a little bit, but I don't think whatever you're gonna tell us isn't gonna ease the pain, because other people that are here are worried about other projects. We're worried about the fact that, you say this is not feasible. Why isn't it feasible to get a guarantee on properties?
To over 100 people, negotiate an individual contract
You're gonna
with
sell
100 different people.
You're gonna sell the thing off anyway. How's it gonna impact you? You're gonna sell this off to some other company, right? You're not gonna.
We build them.
You build them, that's right.
Build that.
Right.
We develop and build, and we
Who do
go long-term owners.
Who do we go back after?
Right.
After it's built and you're out of it, because you sold it to somebody else. Who do we go to for clarity on?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we discussed this ad infinitum, and we, to judge. And it's fairly obvious that we're not at the end of this conversation. No commitments have been made, no solar panels are up. So I'd like to move on with our meeting. We have a lot more items on the agenda. I'm sure this will be discussed again and again and again.
Could I make one more follow-up?
Go ahead.
Realize that if the line capacity for the project that they're looking at from behind the golf course, that goes up by 1 or 2 megawatts, it's the state, we're out of it.
Yeah, and the state's gonna say you let one company, smaller company go in, now you gotta let the bigger company come in. You open the door, you open the door.
There is a dividing line. There's a dividing line between what is the state's preview and what is our preview. Now, can the state change that? Yes. Can we do anything about it? No. Towns are formed out of states. Town law is a state law on how towns work.
Does the larger ones have to be zoned
No.
industrial, or no? They don't have
No.
to change zoning?
It depends. Yeah,
One
it
says no, one
does.
says public.
As things stand right now, you want to put another, they got to rezone. Now, if the state overrules us, that's one thing. But as our laws stand right now, you want to put in a solar array, you got to rezone your property.
You got a line capacity of 18. At 20, the state takes over. Our zoning will not stop that.
Can I just give one piece of unsolicited advice? If your law for community solar small generation is so difficult to follow, you are in essence incentivizing companies to do exactly what Councilman Panic is saying. It is in their best interest to make it just large enough that it goes to the state and they don't even have to come here. That's the counter argument to having a very aggressive solar law for smaller projects. Okay, it's really aggressive at the town level, let's make sure we sign up enough land that gets us just over the threshold and we don't have to deal with it. I just share that with you because it will incentivize other companies to come here and say, well, instead of doing a 5 megawatt or a 10 megawatt, I'm gonna do a 19.99, go straight to the state, and they will gut the law and tell you you have to only do 10% of it. I'm just telling you the other side of the coin. That's how some developers look at it. Obviously, we're not doing that, but I will tell you, you will probably get some large projects come here and say, it's in our best interest to go a little bit bigger so that we don't have to deal with some of the stipulations they put in place.
So I just want to end with this. 3% of the electricity in the United States is produced by solar. 3%. It's a drop in the bucket. It's intermittent. It's dilute. Western New York has very little sun. We have a lot of snow that covers up the solar panels in the winter. We are dealing not with this, but with our democracy and our Constitution and our ability to speak the truth about science and economics and be heard. You're a very good salesman, but you're not hearing the human side of this. You're not hearing it, and you're also warning us and scaring us that if you don't do as I say and let us in, then we will be forced to take an even more...
Don't be scared, because what he's saying is defensible, so, you know.
Ernie?
But you're saying that if we don't do this, something worse will happen to you, which is a really great scare.
I definitely did not say that.
The thing is, that they can
That's
come
what
in
you
anyway.
exactly said.
You said it more than once.
It's only option at the
It's
time.
exactly what you implied.
It's
It is what you implied. It's exactly what you implied. You can sit there smug and think it's not, but it's exactly what you implied. The only reason solar's even in existence because it's government subsidized. We're paying for what little electricity exists. I've heard enough, so.
Ernie, what do you got?
Is there any potential revenue for the town out of this one project?
There is, exactly how much that is, I don't know, we haven't gotten that far.
Nil.
There is pilot, and then if you opt out and you decide to tax them, you have to follow the state formula. The state formula is the present value of the money generated from the solar, which will come, they incentivize going for a pilot by making how you can tax them so stringent. The state endorses this. They pay for it.
Yep, all right, enough.
I like my cockers thing though.
I don't know. We discussed this, and there'll be many more meetings after this. If anybody thinks that this is a done deal, that we've signed up anybody, not so. So we'll carry this conversation on. There are some other people that need to be. Yeah, you're going to have a meeting here tomorrow?
No.
Nonetheless, I get listened to by Mr. Huntington, and that I can have a civil conversation with him and he hears what I say. Because I am all about science. My degrees are in science. I'm interested in science. I'm interested in the psychological way this is going to affect the people. We aren't living in a free society when we have to take these things, when we know that the electricity that's coming through the lines is the cheaper way of getting electricity in our country. And I'll go back to the 3% of our electricity in the world is produced by solar. And the fact that it's intermittent and dilute, and the clouds are here. Look at what's been happening the last month. We haven't had much sun at all. We've had heat, but we haven't had any sun. So realistically, there's a lot to be talked about. And I know that you know these things. I know that you know these things. You can't help but know these things because it's nothing but common sense.
Again,
While we're at it here, have a conversation with the present property owner. Just talk to him and express your concerns about what he wants to do.
They know our concerns.
So what is the motivation that you're getting at? You're
The
getting
motivation
at
is
asking the
talk
person's
to
motivation.
the current property owner.
Yes.
Who is it?
I'm not gonna repeat the name, find
We
it
know
out.
who it is, so you don't have.
again,
That's just my opinion.
Again.
Talk to him.
we're trying to link it to the seeker so that what was covered by the study committee gets addressed. That's why you did a general meeting going over the overall situation and why you didn't want widespread solar in Stafford. And now we need the specific items that we need to address to make sure it's not a risk to our residents.
Who's responsible to actually do the seeker? The town?
board.
The town board?
Yes. But because this is a wee bit more complex, if you've sat through a seeker that we've had here, generally they don't run longer than an hour because the ramifications of the project are very straightforward. From the flip side, it is a form of failure mode analysis, and I've participated in ones that are 1,200 type pages of issues to go over.
Well, based on those books that I've seen, and Sandy is done, how's that gonna get done in an hour? A seeker done in an hour?
It can't be. That's what we've been saying all along.
We spent an hour on this today already.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll just say that I will think it over, but I don't see that common sense has come into it. And a civil discussion about, well, mostly people don't know what's in the, like, I don't think you guys know what is in these books, what is in the science. I think if you knew the science, you might change your occupation. This is a very dangerous thing to have in a town. So Ron and Bob, I'm kind of changing my mind from what I said, that I was going to go away and not come back. But I won't be doing it tomorrow evening because.
Okay.
That is the link we intended.
Okay, so in 2 to 3 weeks with the things that I have going on,
Okay.
I will go over that book with this group.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have the next item on the agenda is from the Law Office of Mark Young. Dear Supervisor Clement, please be advised that I have been retained by Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey Latham to possibly pursue a civil cause of action against the town of Stafford and the code enforcement officer, Jerry Wood, for the continued harassment of my clients. Although I believe that there are enough facts to commence a lawsuit, before I commence the same, I would like a chance to speak with all of the parties concerned in an attempt to alleviate the current situation. Upon receipt of this conversation, please contact me to schedule a mutually convenient time within which to meet. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Have you been contacted by them?
I contacted him, and he was not available to meet last week,
Okay,
so we're trying to schedule something for this week.
okay. All right. Any other comments that you'd like to?
Nothing I'd like to comment in open session.
Okay. Next, this is dated August 2nd, and it's addressed to the Stafford Town Board, Thomas Stafford, Councilman, Supervisor, and residents. Due to health concerns and family commitments, it is with heartfelt sorrow that I will be resigning from the Stafford Town Board effective September 1st, 2022. This will allow me time to finish up any business I am committed to after the August meeting. The trust and confidence of the residents of the town have been a driving force for my services over the past 10 years. This is my official resignation dated August 2nd, 2022, and hand-delivered to the Stafford Town Clerk. Resignation letter to be signed and dated by both parties. Thank you for allowing me to serve this great town of ours. Guards, Don Munn, Stafford Town Councilman, and also Barbara Radley, Stafford Town Clerk.
Thank you, John.
That being said, we're going to have to appoint a deputy supervisor. Don has been the deputy supervisor for a while, so until his term runs out, he'll still be the deputy supervisor. So we're going to have to appoint someone else, and that would take place at the September meeting.
I would ask that on September 1st that my name and signature be removed from all the bank records, please. Because they have my signature for running banking, and I don't want anything to come back from that.
That being said, I can't appoint someone to.
But I can't legally sign anything after September 1st, so you might want to sign somebody tonight.
Mark, you can tell me if I'm getting it wrong. I believe it's Section 42 of Town Law is where your deputy supervisor is assigned by the town supervisor. If for some reason you don't assign somebody, the town board can then name a deputy supervisor.
Can I name that person tonight?
Sure can.
Yeah, because don't forget, Steve comes in and he talks about, well, I need this for my, I've got this person as my deputy supervisor. And we all go, oh, yeah, all right. Now, it's nice to have a vote to endorse it, but the way the law goes is that it's simply a choice. And from the flip side, it's your choice to cancel too. So if you're not happy with the results you're getting, you don't need a resolution from the town board. You just say, thank you very much, but I'm going to go on to somebody else. So.
That being said, I would like to appoint Ron Panic as deputy supervisor as up to the.
And as a courtesy, I would like an endorsement vote from the rest of the board. Not binding, just.
I have made, I guess you could call it a motion. Who wants to second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. All right. And also, at the same time that I remove you from there, we'll put Ron, as a signature.
Thank you.
All right. We have a court-related item here. Whereas the judges from the town of Stafford need a printer. Whereas the judges of the town of Stafford have chosen to lease a Toshiba printer for 63 months at a price of $101.57 per month, and a total of $6,398.91. Therefore, the judges of the town of Stafford will lease a Toshiba printer for 63 months at a total of $6,398.91. We need a motion to do that.
Just a quick question, is it set up the same as the,
It'll be very similar to the one,
so you get your toner for free and you pay for paper?
yeah, look at all the toner, all maintenance, everything. It's, the only thing we'll supply is paper.
Based on that, I make a motion to buy the printer.
It's a lease.
Lease the printer.
Exactly.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Pan?
Yes.
Councilman Deason?
Yes.
He's talking to Sandy.
Supervisor Appoint?
Yes.
Do I lean on Donnie for his vote?
Sure.
Go get him.
I gotta put him down as absent because he isn't in the room. We have a list of units that are in our proposed water district number 12. And did you produce this?
Absolutely not, not a person spoken to me about this.
Okay. All right, no, I got it.
Never mind.
It'll be a minute.
Yeah, if they're 12, the question last week is how are these determined?
Determined by our
Engineering firm.
engineer.
Which strikes me that we're paying twice for determining the developability of property. It's done once when you declare something either a developable lot or just vacant land, am I right?
Yes.
All right, but then we have our at the very same time, we have our engineering firm.
I have no idea how they do it. I don't know.
They should be doing it based off information we provide them.
That's not always the case. Normally, and I just said this to you in the email, normally in the past, in my 36 years with water districts, the assessor is included in that decision making. We go over the tax maps and we go over each one. In this situation, Water District 12, I was not part of that conversation. So I don't know how they decide.
All right, so then do we have a case where they're all the same people doing it? What made Water District 12 special?
I could be incorrect on this, but my understanding that Eric Weiss is the person you normally work with. Eric received another position, and someone else was going to move in and take over doing work on Water District 12, and that person since has left. And Eric is back on the scene. So I would say there was a great communication gap in there and that moving around. Other than that, I don't know.
So then we've had where you've worked with every other district but 12, and there's nothing in the system that, except for I think what we're going to do right here,
I was
that makes
sent-
sure that you're in the loop.
Years ago, I was sent, a number of years ago, I was sent a list, and then I went ahead and put them on the computer. 1 unit or half unit, whatever. I was on that list, I was told to put on. And that's the only extent that I've had. Nothing's been charged against it, but they are on there.
All right, so then that would mean if we approve this list of units, we would be approving a list of units that has been done in a different fashion than any other water district we have.
Yeah, I mean, and then you get the list to me immediately, so I can make sure that what's on my system is correct.
It would seem easier if, since most properties are coded, aren't they?
No.
And I keep going back to my, there isn't a code that differentiates a single-family residence from a
Yeah,
two-family residence
Yes.
from a
a
vacant
property
lot
class code, yes.
to a developable lot, like the one I have on Twin Road?
Yeah, I know, I knew you were going for it. I know exactly where you were going with that. Yes, there are property class codes.
All right, why don't we use that for,
I have no idea what your engineers did or do. I don't know. I really don't know. I think they do an estimate of gallons might be used by a homeowner or something like that. I don't know.
Well, the math plan and report.
It's never been an issue to Water District 12.
Also, in this list, there are people listed that have a small, like a half an acre, that would be charged. And we've never done that before.
Are you talking about the half units?
Yes.
It is correct. You have, all of your other water districts, you've never charged a half unit. But in this case, the list that was given to me had half units.
all right, was there any change at the state level
No,
which would prompt?
not to my knowledge, no.
If we've never done it in any other, I see no point in doing it here.
Then you say you're not gonna do it. But you're gonna have to readjust your estimate of what the people are gonna have to pay when you remove those half units, which I'm sure your bookkeepers in there knows that, so.
Now, one way you can forestall this on a questionable piece of property is you simply merge them together, am I right?
That is one way to do it.
But what would stop anybody from merging them together and then 2 years from now, after the water's in, split it off again?
Because you have to go through a process to divide property.
Well, I
Right,
understand
land
that,
separation, but
but
you
say
could.
land separation, which you still
Yes,
can.
you could, sure you
So
could.
then where do you stand?
You can merge and split, you just have to go through the planning board and all that.
I guess-
You have an opinion about this discussion we're having?
I don't want to have an opinion about this discussion, this is up to you folks. I was surprised
Well, all right.
that you, for the first time, put half units on, but my fear is that you've already made an application, I believe, to the proper lending institutions or organizations that'll give you money based on a certain unit count. So my concern is that you are going to be changing that and have to backtrack and change the paperwork you've already submitted. I see Mark nodding a little bit, help me out. So that's my concern. But if you decide that's what you want to do, then decide it right now. And you might want to wait and see what's it going to change each, then the people who have 1 unit, what is it going to change their charge, their
Well,
annual
there's-
charge?
Item number 13 here might have an effect on this.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll leave things the way they are right now.
Bob, because you know, I'm the one that had to question this. How many half units are there in Water District 12?
I think
You
I
got
counted 19.
19. Because I went through the 371 pages of the tax rolls, and there isn't a half a unit on anyone else's.
No.
But what I also found was, and then maybe Ann can answer this, what's the difference between residential vacant and rural vacant land?
Usually acreage.
But, that being said, in Water District 12, a lot of them have a half a unit, But in a lot of the other, all the other water districts don't have any.
No, that's correct.
Right, we said that.
So, I know, so why all of a sudden are we gonna do half units with 12? That's an Eric
why we're
question.
talking about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so, but Bob just said, well, let's leave it as is, and I don't want to have a
For
unit.
now.
For now.
For now, okay, because,
As is, meaning we're not taking any
any
action to
action.
approve it.
Oh, okay. Because you just deemed my land wasteland, which is undevelopable, so I don't want to have a unit on there.
That's right.
So now, how do we reestablish the link that has occurred on every other water district so that it runs through your office, so there's no disconnect between the two estimates?
You speak to Eric Weiss and say, you know, we want the assessor involved. I mean, we've done it here with him. I've done it with other water districts. You sit in a small meeting room, we have the maps out, we go through. I just think it was the change of position and his company that messed everything up.
It also may be an effort to get under the comptroller's threshold for approval.
That's what I was just gonna say, it looks more like a strategy.
That's what I was gonna mention too, because those 19 units could put them over the threshold.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, the 19 units paying, the more units you have, the cheaper it is per household to get you under the threshold.
Right. It could
But not for those
jeopardize-
19
It
units.
could jeopardize the whole project, to be honest. That's something we need to know.
I'm quite sure when we ask Eric, that is how they're floating the project. I haven't asked him that question, but it does seem to be that strategy, and it does seem to be why all of a sudden a link that's been going on for, well, since we have 12 water districts, has gone on for at least 11 times, that this may be a financing strategy.
Could be.
But that hurts the 19 people that have the half units.
Yes.
All right, item number 13 is a part of this. It's a water infrastructure improvement grant. And this is from Municipal Solutions, who does a lot of our work. Municipal Solutions is submitting this amendment to our original contract dated December 14, 2018, in conjunction with Town of Stafford's Water District Number 12 project. This amendment will add the submission of an application for a water infrastructure improvement grant. Submission of an application and any documentation required for a water infrastructure improvement grant, WIIA. This application for water infrastructure improvement grant will be billed at an hourly rate of $155 with a minimum fee of $1,800. The total fee for this contract, based on the current project scope, is estimated to increase by $1,800 to $38,900. If this time frame is exceeded, or if the estimated total fee is exhausted due to unanticipated changes in project plans, scope, or timeline, we reserve the right to amend this agreement through project completion. If there are services performed beyond the scope of the project, or if the project ceases for any reason, an invoice for work completed will be due at the current hourly rate plus expenses. Invoices will be submitted periodically. Payment is expected within 40 days of the invoice date. The fees may be adjusted annual on the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics Consumer Price Index, all urban consumers. Upon acceptance of this proposal, please execute and return one copy to our Leroy office located at 62 Main Street, Leroy, New York, 14482, following the next board meeting. The terms set forth above are subject to change if you do not receive a signed contract within 30 days. This contract will remain in effect until terminated by either party. You have the right to terminate this contract for any reason at any time. We agree to promptly amend or supplement this letter to reflect any material changes or additions to the agreement evidenced by this letter. typically in the past, any costs that we have will be at the closing of the water district will be covered by the water district itself and not generally by the town of Stafford. So I guess application for this grant, it's a competitive grant. I don't know if I read it in here. Doesn't mean we're going to get a lot of money, but it's certainly worth.
But that's Municipal Solutions charge for applying.
Right. That's right.
And what was that amount? 1,800 to what?
38,900 maximum. But again, this is all costs of the water district, and when the water district closes, they'll be covered.
How much, did they say how much of a grant we're getting?
No.
Did they, well, why would you want to pay for a grant that we don't know how much we're going to get?
Well, it's certainly worth applying for, whatever it is.
Yeah, money burned.
I would ask them for an estimate of what the grant size would be. There's no reason why they can't provide that.
Hate to bring this up again. Is this something that we could help use the American Rescue money for?
No, that's, this is specific to Water District 12. That money that we got there has got to cover the whole town and not just...
Well, it's got to cover COVID-related issues that the town has...
You can't restrict that money and put it into this because it only covers a small part of the town.
We used a very straightforward process. We lost significant revenue from our courts during COVID.
Yeah, I know. We've heard that every meeting. How much do we have in our money market account? So losing money due to COVID is one thing, but when we have over $400,000 in the bank, I don't really see where the losing money from the court, you know.
What percentage of our budget is the reserve? It's less than half. Or the price of a town truck and a pickup. Or 2/4 of lost sales tax.
But the
like
county's
we had
given,
during
that's all
COVID.
coming back, right? I mean, that was lost and we haven't gone broke yet. After
Well, no,
losing
because-
it, we still
because-
have it.
Because we didn't spend our reserves in the past. The money didn't burn a hole in our pocket.
Right.
So all I'm saying is be very careful what you do with your reserves. If we had another pandemic right now, we would be borrowing money. Or you could have it, and I always quote this because I can compare two pieces of property I own, or you can pay 89 cents like I do in Stafford. Or you can pay 11.02 like I pay in Barry. I'll be careful with the reserves. We've gotten down that low.
Well, if you're down that low, I can't see why you spend all this money on a new truck for the fire department, a new truck for the town. I mean, it's like, why would you want to buy a new truck now when the price has gone up so much in the last 2 years?
Because we've been very successful at having a regular replacement policy.
It doesn't matter. If the price of a vehicle went from $10,000 to $30,000 in these 2 years, why would you buy a vehicle? Why don't you wait another year? Hopefully it'll come down.
Because the truck kept breaking down when we needed it on snow.
He says it's not breaking down.
It was breaking down. The salt was eating out the electric.
Oh, that truck, what about the regular town truck? Not
All
the
right, we're not talking about town
Okay.
budgets here. Let's get back.
We're talking about town budgets,
Get back
yeah.
to what we're talking about.
Okay, if we can find out how much the grant is gonna
A
be.
water infrastructure improvement grant. How much it's gonna be, I don't know, but we need some paperwork, my signature on this, so we can proceed with this tonight.
I make a motion that we proceed with finding out what the amount and the application fee would be, and to move forward from there.
Second.
Is that a specific enough? Or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think whatever their charge is, what they paid for down the road anyway. But at least we gotta apply for it. The idea of applying for this grant is to keep the unit charge in Water 12 under $1,000. That's, hopefully this will cause that to happen.
I'd hate to have us pay $38,000 for a $40,000 grant.
We're only paying 100.
I thought they'd give a range.
No, it increases our debt to them to 38,000
Right.
for the project. That's what I understand.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded.
Increase that to that.
Yeah.
You got the language there, we need,
To build it down.
Councilman Panic made a motion to proceed with the amount and application fee so we can move forward.
this is for the
For the,
Total for this contract based on the current
water infrastructure and improvement grant.
infrastructure.
All right, which is, the 38,000 comes from what's added to it.
Roll call vote on that.
Okay. Councilman Bowen,
Yes.
Councilman Panic,
Yes.
Councilman Houston, Supervisor Clement.
Yes. Ask for the, in case there's that. I will sign that.
Just one more question, if we're done with water districts. How did the half units get on the bill if we haven't approved the units yet?
How did the what?
How did the estimated half units for Water District 12 get on the bill if we haven't approved those?
I was given a list.
All
And
right.
said, here, put these on. They're on my system, which then they would produce, but there would be nothing there. There's no charge.
All right.
It just shows WD12. That's it.
Wouldn't it make more sense to wait until we approve the units?
Because normally they ask for reports to make sure that more than 50% of the assessed value is in the district and all these reports, which were never asked for. But normally that's how what happened. We go through, we run reports.
Who gave you the list of the units?
The big engineers give me the list.
There doesn't seem to be enough safety in that to ensure that we don't have units going out or information on units going out that haven't been approved by the board.
Well, at some point in time, I assumed, I know we shouldn't assume, that they must have had Bob sign paperwork or the board approved their plan. Somewhere, it has to be in the writing. I don't know.
All right, I've left out an important part of this same thing. This would be Resolution 32 with reference to the proposed Town of Stafford, Genesee County Water District Number 12 project. Whereas the Town of Stafford engaged Clark Patterson Lee engineers to complete an engineering report for the town's Water District Number 12 distribution center, identifying the current system shortcomings, the proposed infrastructure improvement necessary to improve performance, and the projected cost for residents of the district. And whereas affordability for town residents and property owners is a significant concern in advancement of the proposed project, and whereas the town is eligible for Water Infrastructure Improvement Act funding and must now submit a competitive application to obtain WIIA funding. Now therefore be it resolved as follows: the town board authorizes Municipal Solutions to prepare an application for Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant funds from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. The town board authorizes Supervisor Robert Clement and Barbara Radley in her role as town clerk to execute the application for Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant funds from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. This project shall take effect immediately. This is dated August 8th. All right, now we got a introduced by.
All right, I'll make a motion, but again, rereading the letter, the 18 to 3,800, the 1,800 is the estimated fee for the grant, and the 3,800 is their total charges on for this and other things, from what we can tell from the letter. Am I explaining that correctly?
I think that's what it says.
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Mullen?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Deason?
Yes.
Supervisor Clement?
Yes. Okay. Well, guess what? Hand sapiens.
Oh my God. I am here because I watched the town board meeting of July 11th. And when, my goodness, assessments were mentioned quite frequently in that meeting. And what's disturbing to me is the misinformation, misunderstandings of what was said by both people in the audience and the board. I'm like, wow, I've been here 21 years. I guess I have not done a good job of communicating. So I just want to address, because this is now going to go to video news service, as the July 11th meeting was, and it will be out there forevermore, what was said. So I just want to address each of them. I wrote down what was said chronologically. And one of the first was, there was a concern from someone who's here that auctioned, properties that have sold at auction sold for much less than the brand new assessments. And my response, and this isn't going to be in the minutes, all property owners every year who have a change in assessment get a notice. And when they get that notice, it's their responsibility then to call me if they are unhappy with what the notice says. No one with the auction buildings called me. Another reason they don't call me, they know they're going to go up for auction and sell, and they're hoping to get a higher price if they leave the higher assessment on there. Since those have sold, no one yet has still called me on those properties. So that's, I just wanted to address that concern. We have only had 3 legitimate sales since May 1st in the town of Stafford. All 3 sold for less than the new assessment, or sold for more than the new assessments. Okay, so one was I got it assessed at $240, it sold for $300. So far the market, although it's slowed down, the market still, they're selling for more than even the brand new assessment so far. Okay, hope that helped that one. Also, there was a terrible rumor, quote, Ann was telling people that you can't grieve your assessment unless you let her inside. Absolutely not. That would be against the law. If someone, I asked them, could I please do an interior? No. Okay. So well, okay, that's fine. I said that I'm not going to adjust the assessment because I feel the interior is an important part of the value of a home and property. So, no problems, we'll see a grievance. And that's what grievance is there for. And they're a good board. They don't always agree with me, so, you know, they're a good board. So I just want to make it very clear.
Could you repeat that section over again that you just covered? If, starting with, if someone says no to an on-site inspection.
An interior.
An interior. Who suggests that?
Who suggested what?
Do you suggest that?
Oh, yeah, I do, yeah. Now, I do get calls from folks and say, will you please come over and look at my house? And I have to say, I'd say 85 to 90% of the time they're right, I'm too high when they call me. I don't hear from people where they think I'm too low.
Since we have site plans, if it was built after we have local inspection, since we can have photographs, why would we need an interior inspection to review an assessment?
Probably the same reason an appraiser whose person's going for a mortgage with the bank, an appraiser's gonna come in. You wanna see the whole thing. And normally people, when they come in with pictures, they're only showing me the worst. That's it. They're showing me the bad windows, they're showing me the bad stuff. They don't show me the good stuff. So it's just it's a quick, easy way to get a good value on a property. And it's not been a real major problem. When someone says no, it's no, okay.
But then they should get the same treatment that someone who allows you in. If the pictures are inadequate, ask them for more pictures. I have, and that's why, and I haven't submitted it yet, but we did pass a resolution to go after a town policy for this, is you show the difference between an appraiser and yourself. You do similar work. One is a private party that a private person brings into their home. The other person is a member of the government.
Right, I'm with you, yeah.
All right. So then you have a private detective that you can invite in to investigate something, and you also have the police that investigate something.
Well, I think
And we have
Ron,
very-
you're going way past.
No, I'm not. Very stringent controls on how government enters your home.
Okay, I also included, you should have in your packets, this is an opinion of council, and it's just one of many about the issue. An assessor should not enter on private property and take measurements or photographs without first securing the permission of the landowner. Okay, so I was trying to tell you, you don't need to pass a resolution, the law is already in existence.
No, I think if one of your conditions to get a consideration is a visit, then yeah, I do think we need a resolution.
You cannot, I'm going to be honest with you, you can't dictate that on how to do my job.
That's correct.
And I'm sorry, you were way out of line on that one, way out of line. I have a job to do, I know what the laws are, I know what I can or cannot do. All a person has to do is say no, and that's it.
Nothing in the law gives you the right to go into somebody's home. You can't show up.
I know that, I said that, Ron. I said that, why do you keep...
Then why do you
beating a dead
make
horse?
it a condition of consideration that you have a visit?
Because I feel that I can get a better value, a market value on a home if I'm allowed to do an interior. If not, I'm gonna sit on mine, then we both go to grievance. The property owner shows their paperwork, what they want to show. I give mine, we both leave with the grievance board, makes a decision. And if they're still unhappy, we go to small claims, which I've got 2 small claims this year. There's all options there. But my job is to get as close to market value as I can get. That's my
true.
job.
But again...
All right, I understand you don't like it, but let's move on, because I got a lot more. And as we are all aware, I do retire October 1st, so you can deal with it, but don't cross the line, please. Nevertheless, and this is part of that opinion of council, nevertheless, a property owner cannot be permitted to escape taxation by denying access to the assessor. The assessor must determine an assessed value, even when access to property is denied by a property owner. Boom, that's in the opinion of council, which you all have. Okay? So, the next thing,
do you have copies of that?
you all have it in your packets. The next one was, does the town assess every year? Who decides? The town is reviewed statistically every year to see where we're at. I look at styles of homes. I say we don't have many sales. We're a small town. But I'm looking to see, are we staying at around 100% of market value? And we sign, which you also have in your packet. This is the plan for cyclical reassessments that's signed every 6 years. Bob signs, I sign, and it gives a thing saying that we're staying at 100% and annually reassessing. So you should have that in your packets.
Every 6 years?
We sign this every 6 years. Not that we reassess every 6 years. What it's saying is for the next 6 years, till this one's 2027, I'm going to review the selling prices of properties in the town of Stafford. And I'm going to see, are we going to stay at 100% of market value? Now, no one's that good that you're going to hit 100% perfect. But I try to get within 10% of the selling price is my goal.
Why are we doing it that frequently when other towns aren't?
Most all of us in Genesee County are at 100%, are doing it.
Leroy?
Every year though?
Leroy's the only one right now, and that's because they've had to change an assessment, a brand new assessor, and he did not feel that he knew the town well enough. He's supposed to do it next year. Yeah. So you just got a Jim Kirsch, nice guy, very, very knowledgeable.
It's kind of weird how we got reassessed this year and the values of the houses are going up. And yet the market is saying we're getting into a recession, so.
Oh, not in the housing market.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, it's come down already.
Well, yeah, all I do is work by facts. What comes to me that was filed at the county clerk's office, okay, and I can give them all to you, it's public record, public knowledge of what has sold and for how much, okay? That's all I got is facts. Yes, I just went and bought my French vanilla creamer. It used to be $4 and is now $7.19 a top, so yes, I understand that other part too.
So if by the end of the year, housing prices decline, say 10, 20%, we're going to reassess the values for lower next year?
As I said, that was one of my things on here. Someone said if the sales start to go down, okay, will you reassess and lower assessments? And my response at the time was, I won't be here and I cannot speak to what the next assessor in the town of Stafford will do. I know what I would do, but I will not be the assessor here. We also, you got to remember, in assessing, we only use historical, and it's old. Our evaluation date for the 2022 roll was July 1st, 2021. So I'm a year behind. We're always a year behind. So let's say the market starts to go down. You aren't going to see it in the assessments for probably at least 2 years. It's just the way the cycle works. And that's all state law stuff, so I can't help on that one. So anyways, you're always looking as an assessor. I'm looking and watching, okay, to see, do I need to move anything? Is there a certain segment of the community that needs to be done? I'm constantly just looking. Someone in the audience who's here mentioned countywide assessing, and I want to tell you, I agree. Genesee County is the right size county to go to countywide assessing. The problem is, the county doesn't want to do it. And I don't know how many of the towns want to lose that. So I was a member in 2017 of the $50,000 grant we got from the governor's office to do a study on consolidation to go to countywide assessing in Genesee County. And there was a bunch of us on this, we studied this, and what it came down to is Genesee County's like, no way, we don't want to hire 10 full-time people to do it right. Tompkins County and Nassau County are the only 2 counties in New York State that are countywide assessing. Nassau's has been a travesty because of politics. Tompkins County has an excellent program, and they've been in it since the 1950s. The last thing, I think, oh, not really. It was said at the meeting that the state wants to take over the assessment process. That could be no further than that's way off. What the state wants is all countywide assessing, so they don't have to deal with how many towns and villages and cities are in the state of New York, 900? Okay. They want to deal with 62 counties. So that's what they want. And they want our information fast. They don't want me tied to Genesee County when I'm punching everything in. They want me tied to Albany. And it'll get there probably. That will end up happening, I think. Shared assessor, that was brought up. I have never been a shared assessor. A shared assessor is someone where you have 2 municipalities or more that sign a contract and agree to do things together. I've never had that. I've worked for 4 towns at once, just a part-time assessor, Leicester, York, Stafford, and Bergen, 30 years. People were saying, she never was the assessor in Bergen. I'm like, yes, I was for 30 years. So I used to be Byron too. So, but I never was a part of a shared service program. Kathy, I'm going to point this one because this is important. You said something, I believe that Mrs. Worthington misunderstood what I said regarding a 3-year, because you said nothing's going to happen for 23, 24, and 25 or something. It's in the video. And I'm like,
Right,
whoa!
yeah, I was at the,
Right, well, you must have
Grievance day
totally
when you-
misunderstanding what I said, so I want to make sure we straighten that out. No one can say for sure, an assessor can say for sure what's going to happen 2-3 years down the road. I never would have thought the housing market would do what it did during COVID.
but you're not gonna go back and average it, is what I meant.
No, we're not doing, you don't do that. No, so that's.
Yeah, then I
incorrect.
misunderstood what you were
Yeah,
telling that
yeah,
lady.
I figured
I
too.
just was listening to what you were telling the lady that was up there.
We get trends from the state of New York, a housing market trend for our area. This year it was 11%, the prior year was 4%, the prior year was 2%. That 2%, the old year, 2019, will get thrown out and they're going to bring in 2022. Now, I have a feeling we're still going to get hit hard in 2022 with the trend. I don't know for sure, but as the places are still selling, the market's still strong. So we'll have to see what happens. So my point in this is things were said that now forever live on the internet. And I just wanted to try to clarify some. I've only got another, 2 months or so here, and I don't want to leave it on a sour note. So thank you very much.
All right, just as a follow-up, I don't take quite, I'm looking at the SBEA number 4, and I've read it before, and it still strikes me that it's a matter of application, where if you're allowing people different types of consideration based on what type of evidence of value the property they provide, I don't think you're being fair.
That's a judgment call by me on whether or not, how I feel I'm going to get the best value on that house. It's a judgment call from me.
Yet, when you look at the assessor's manual, it clearly describes that you have, I won't put it, how do I put it? Where the, basically it says that you can use multiple types of assessment.
Oh, sure, you can do different things, sure. I know assessors that do stuff, especially downstate, that I wouldn't even think about doing.
So that would mean that if we hire a new assessor to replace you, one of the questions we should ask is, will you be using all types of data to provide the assessment?
Sure, you can ask, it's a fair question.
Rather than asking people to come in their home.
No, they're always going to ask. I don't know what assessor doesn't ask. That's the way it is in our business. And by the way, I teach that course, so I can assure you I do know what I'm talking about. Okay, that's it, I'm done.
All right,
Okay.
I guess we disagree on that one.
Your thought, Jack.
Item number 15, historian update. And only Connor has agreed, I guess, to be our historian. Would you like to say a few words?
I wasn't necessarily prepared to say anything, but I am happy to serve as the historian. I look forward to getting to know everybody in the community better and having a fun time doing it as well. Hopefully everybody else will as well. So thank you very much.
Good for you.
Motion offered to appoint Colleen as historian. So moved.
And also, just I'm sorry, you had corrected the minutes. My full name is Mary Colleen, so you weren't wrong. I just, if there was one by Mary, it's always been Colleen.
Okay, so how would you like it in the minutes? Mary?
Colleen is good,
Okay.
yeah. But you weren't wrong.
A motion second.
Second.
Councilman Mullin,
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Gleason? Yes. Supervisor Clement?
Yes. Thank you. Linda Call.
Thank you. For many years, I've spearheaded the Stafford page in the Genesee County Chamber Visitors Guide. And this year, the Chamber hopes to get a month's jump start on their campaign and their work. And so instead of coming to you with a request of would you participate this year in September, they're starting in August, so I'm here now in August. The page cost has not changed, it's $1,800. And in the past, you've budgeted $1,000, and we have found sponsors for the $800. Usually, our sponsors have been the Red Osier, the Stafford Garden Club, the Stafford Historical Society, the Orchard, the Apple Orchard over there in Roanoke, and 80 Falls itself. And we hope to have those sponsors renew if they will. So the question for you fellows tonight is, will you participate with a $1,000 sponsorship of the Stafford page in the tourism guidebook?
Someone make a motion to that effect?
It's budgeted items, so moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor of the $1,000 figure, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is a rather lengthy escrow agreement for professional consultant fees between the town of Stafford and Sun East Transit Solar LLC. Whereas Sun East Transit Solar LLC, Sun East is seeking to site and construct a 20 megawatt community solar photovoltaic electric generating facility, quote, the project in the town of Stafford, Genesee County, New York, and whereas Sun East, as part of the Stafford Town land use review process, intends to apply to the town board, hereinafter town board, for a site plan approval. And whereas the town board may require the assistance of independent professional consultants for legal and technical guidance in connection with its review of the project, and whereas the town desires to establish an escrow account to be funded by Sun East to reimburse the town for the reasonable and necessary cost of engaging independent professional consultants in connection with the town board's review of Sun East's land use application for the project. Now, there are several paragraphs. I don't know legally do I need to read all of that?
So is that?
Where's the location?
Where's this one? Want to go?
Buckley Road.
Yeah, this
is the one on the road.
This is the one behind your place.
Behind your house.
So now, has it met the minimum for state, or, because they were talking 19 before,
I think it was 20.
so now it's 20.
Well, I think it was 20.
All right, and the state is 20.
That they can opt in at 20.
Too bad Angie's left. My house is gonna be worth shit now.
You're right.
Now you gotta sell. Sell it back.
So they opened the door.
No, I'm just gonna get my own.
That was the other page. That was the
By
last one.
Mark, by agreeing to this.
She said they didn't know.
So we put my cart before the horse.
They're just saying you pay for your fees, whatever it takes for you to go through the process, whether you approve or disapprove. They'll pick up the tab for it.
This in no way
Commits you to anything. You're not committed.
ties us to an agreement.
Not at all. The only agreement you're tying is they'll reimburse you for any costs associated with your investigation of the process of the application.
So what do we need to do here as far as the board is concerned?
Well, they're asking for you to enter into this agreement to reimburse, to allow them to reimburse you.
And any charges we incur, would that include professional?
And that's exactly what it is. It's engineers, it's any consultant you retain. Engineers, attorneys, anybody, yep.
All right, so I think one of the first uses of this would be for you to tell us, are they submitting under the state program?
The last communications I've heard from them was they were seriously considering, given the climate, given what they know about the other projects and so forth.
So they're calling this a community solar. Does that mean the state, with it being a community versus?
Did they say it was community? Is that what it says?
It says community on it.
So it's under the threshold then?
Okay. I assumed that. I wanted to.
For now, it's under the threshold.
When you say under the threshold, that means
20
under
megawatts.
where the state could override anything.
20 megawatts is the threshold for them to opt in if they want.
Didn't they say there that they were looking at a 20 megawatt?
It says 20 megawatt community solar.
So it's kind of like a contradiction. It's saying
Well, it's their
20
option.
megawatt.
It's their option to opt in or out. So right now, they're saying it's a community project.
This is basically their application, right?
No.
A motion to enter into this agreement?
The ramifications if we don't enter into this agreement.
Then you pay the full shot. They don't reimburse you for anything.
The time of consideration on this, since we've just received it.
Can you review the whole thing, Mark?
I reviewed, yeah. It's a standard agreement that most solar companies are presenting to towns. Pretty standard all the way across.
So we would like to construct this project in a few years if permitted and approved by the town board. There's no timeline.
Right. I mean, I suppose, to my
So-
understanding, there's nothing really going on with the project right now. I've had a little bit of communication with some of their attorneys, but there's nothing happening. It's been pretty dormant.
So if we table this for a month or two to research it, we're fine.
Shouldn't be a problem.
All right, I make a motion to table this issue.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we have, this is regarding VW Solar Project, their supervisor comment. This is from Clark Patterson. We are pleased to learn that CPL was selected to assist the town with the proposed VW Solar Project review. As indicated in our email dated of July 11th, 2022, we anticipate billing on the project on an hourly basis with an estimated total not to exceed fee of $45,000. The project team and billing rates are as follows. Eric C. Weiss, PE, $225. Steve Tanner, PE, $195. Justin Steinbach, AICP, $165. Should you have any questions or require additional information, please contact me at 260-4970. Very truly yours, Clark Patterson, Eric Weiss, principal.
Given our discussion tonight, should we double check with them if that includes support of our seeker? If that sounds like application only.
You can. I mean, it generally does, but you can.
And all those costs are reimbursable through the escrow account, correct?
Yes.
everybody involved here, so. Okay. Any further discussion necessary on this?
They're your town engineer, so you don't really need to retain them. They just give you the costs.
19, Kathy Worthington.
Okay, so I understand the water thing a little more, but you're gonna get back to us on the half unit, right? That whole half unit thing?
Yeah.
I'm just going through my notes. Let's go back to the solar thing. Back in May, we talked about retaining a lawyer, some law firm out of Boston or something. Are we gonna do that to help us with the seeker or fight our solar thing?
They won't be involved in the seeker. They
No,
would advise us on litigation.
On litigation. So, are we going to do that? I mean, it was brought up in May and...
You said before that this wouldn't be something you would
Absolutely right.
litigate.
Absolutely right.
So we have to look to outside sources.
If it comes to that.
And just for quick clarity, the escrow account, which we would be responsible for, similar to the other company that's paying everything, we would be paying for the engineers, but also if your town attorney was part of the process to make sure we're following all the elements through the process, we would be paying his fees as well. So you could use him to ask questions and verify, and we would obviously pay for his services. That escrow account would not be used if we ended up. Okay.
Okay. I had one more. Have you guys searched out all the grants possible to help us with this water district? I mean, I know we have municipal solution grants and stuff. Are there any other grants out there that we could be looking at to help us with this cost, to get the things back down?
I think Municipal Solutions would come up with those people. If there were other grants out there, they'd be telling us about it.
Okay, so they do all the grant work on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I do have one more thing. So this goes to Mr. Patton. So when you were chatting with Ann and you were asking her questions about the appraisals going into the house and stuff, were you complaining about that, or you were just asking her questions?
I'm not a fan of, if we're making that a required step to get your assessment looked at, I don't agree with it.
Okay, well, I only asked because I asked a question about the water units. And in an email I received, you commented, obviously the person complaining about receiving the half a unit disagrees with the property, whether the property can be developed. I guess I don't like being said I was complaining about it when I was just asking a question why I was getting a half a unit when no other water district in the town of Stafford had a half a water district. I guess asking a question, does that mean I'm complaining every time? Because that really sort of ticked me off.
I would say that was a complaint.
Did I ask a question? Why I was being issued a half a unit? That would be a complaint.
Yes.
Okay.
It sort of puts you on the record.
No, it's not a complaint though, it's a question. Why am I?
Either way, it
Yeah.
puts you on.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So the difference between a complaint and a question, now, if we said, yeah, the half unit's fine, maybe even a full unit.
No, that wasn't the question. The question says, why was I getting a half a unit?
Because nobody could tell me who issued it. Ann said she didn't. Bob said I wasn't going to get one last fall. Oh, no, your vacant land isn't going to get any. And then I saw it on there. So that's why I asked, why am I getting one?
I guess it kind of boils down to the way I look at it. It boils down to whoever's asking the question, whether it be a question or a complaint. If it's somebody like me asking a question, it's a complaint. If it's somebody like whoever, it's a question.
If you're asking to have your units investigated because you think you have.
She didn't say anything about
wrongly
investigated.
charged, that's a complaint.
She didn't say anything about
It's not a
investigating. She
negative.
asked, why was she getting a half a unit?
Yes,
Where do you get investigation out of that?
because we had to investigate. and
No, you had to
reaffirm
answer her question.
How the units are charged.
Oh, you had to answer a
Right,
question.
yeah, and the thing that really surprised after 11 water districts, nobody knew the answer right away, why we were getting.
We had to
If
do our
I
homework.
recall in the meeting, I said, it's likely that our engineering firm is the one doing the assignment. And when we approve the overall project, we approve the units. Check your tape.
I will.
Yeah, no, I see that in here. And I understand how it,
How would it happen?
These half units are put in there to keep the price down. So if we get this other grant, it won't be an issue.
so it's not a done deal. So come January 1st, I'm not gonna get charged extra taxes on that. Because that's what Ann, I really wish Ann would have stayed. Because she did say that if it's on the tax roll, we're gonna start paying for that in January, and we're nowhere near getting water in January. So can we investigate that? So I guess I
Well,
will
I asked
complain
the
about
question,
that.
why was it even assigned if you don't have an approved list?
Right, so
I
that's,
don't recall getting a good answer.
well, she said the engineers did it, so.
Well, the engineers only do it if she doesn't provide the information and there was a broken link here.
Right, yeah, okay. Well,
And
hopefully
that's
we'll
why
fix the
we
link.
said perhaps they're looking at this as a way of making this project go. Because it could very well come down to, without those half units, this project doesn't move forward.
Well, wouldn't the cost just get absorbed? Take those 19 units off and the cost of those 19 half units go to other people? Go to the rest of
Yeah,
the
it
people?
gets spread out
Okay.
across the rest, and it could exceed the state maximum.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's it.
Dale?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Don, you got anything?
I do. I want to say that going back, we as a town board, and me especially, we passed the solar law to protect the citizens of this town. I think this town board going forward ought to seriously take that into consideration. Don't give in to the threat of litigation. There's a good reason why we passed the law as written. If you go back now, I think it would cast a very dark shadow on this board and give the people of this town reason not to trust or believe the board in the future. I truly believe that.
No, I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Any money spent now on attorneys would pay dividends in the future. What you allow now, you will never be able to take back. The benefit of a few should not outweigh the welfare of the many. Another thing is, in the last year, the tone at the meetings has changed and got very increasingly worse. What used to be control is now chaos. A good example is tonight, the solar discussion got way out of hand. Discussion just now with Kathy and Val got way out of hand. It's got to be controlled. That's one reason I'm leaving. And I'm not afraid to say it. It's with a really sad heart that I'm resigning. My reasons were personal and health-wise. The residents of this town have trusted me to represent them over the last 10 years. I don't take that responsibility lightly. I didn't come here just to earn a paycheck. I came here to give 100% back to my town. I don't believe that there's other members of this board who feel that way. I believe God has called me to serve. My service to the town through this board has been unappreciated by some. And there's one right there. Some people make themselves feel better by tearing others down, and it's a shame that that has to be. I don't want to sound bitter. I'm very glad to serve for 10 years, but these things have been eating away at me, and I don't think it's right. I can use my service elsewhere. There's people out there that will appreciate my service. God's going to call me in due time to my next service. I truly believe that. And I wish the residents of this town all my best. And I will be at meetings because I'm not going to let this solar thing die. That's all I got.
Ron? Very good. Oh, with solar, don't you think I've talked enough?
Well,
I have nothing new.
I'll comment on that too. Over the years, I've run a very open meeting. If you want to talk about something, let's hear it. And with very few exceptions, I've never gotten bit. And even tonight, it did get out of hand. There's no question about it. It went on for an hour. But it's an important subject, and a lot of people wanted to be heard about it. So considering the fact that in the past I've let people speak, I did the same thing tonight. You don't agree with it, and that's okay. That's okay. But some towns, you sign up to speak, you get 5 minutes, and that's it. And I have never done that. Maybe I should start to do that.
Well, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job.
Well, no, I can be flexible. If somebody thinks I'm doing things all wrong, I can change. But tonight, it went on and on and on, but it's an important subject. And it's going to affect people. All I got to say. Jim? Barb?
Can I say thank you very much for your openness? I've gone to Byron where you don't open your mouth. And I think we appreciate the ability to question you and participate in this discussion about what's important to this town.
Maybe some supervisors think that they rule with an iron hand and this is the way it is. I've never been that way. I'm not that.
Thank you.
If you got something to say for the good and welfare of the town, I mean, whatever most of us have to say here is for the good and welfare of Stafford. We all live here. We all kind of like it the way it is. And
Thank you.
so let's pay the bills, after which we will go into executive session.
I make motion to pay highway number 8 for $70,692.80.
Second.
$70,692.80.
Motion by Councilman Thiessen, second by Councilman Kennedy to pay a highway abstract 8 in the amount of $70,692.80. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Make a motion to pay general fund number 8 for $51,870.90.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Thiessen, second by Councilman Panic to pay the general fund abstract number 8 in the amount of $51,870.90. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Make a motion to pay water fund number 8, $45,835.14.
35.
$45,835.14.
Is that one big bill or?
What's that?
Do you recall if it was just one big bill?
That's for Water District 1, 11, 2, and 8.
Municipal Solutions?
Rural Development.
It's a duck.
Yeah.
Yes, all right. Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Kennedy, to pay water 8 in the amount of $45,835.14. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to pay capital projects number 8 for $114.49.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Kennedy, to pay capital projects number 8 for $114.49. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
You need a motion for executive session?
Yes.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Moving into here.
What do I do in the boardroom? Makes it easy.
Dan and Ron show, you're gonna be sorry you got to run now.
Attorneys.
For sure.
Yeah.